This next question for you, Rod, right in your wheelhouse, is someone who spent decades fighting communism and warning people about this evil ideology. There's a federal grand jury in New York looking at the Neville Roy Singham, this individual most people perhaps won't know about, a wealthy backer of Code Pink and the People's Forum with deep financial ties and even personal ties to the Communist Party of China. Prosecutors are examining whether he illegally funneled money through American nonprofits to push a pro-Beijing message. Now, who is he and why should an ordinary American care about this name?
Singham is a really interesting guy. First and foremost, he's an American. You know, that's interesting since he lives in Shanghai and has for nearly a decade. But Singham is the child of Sri Lankan immigrants who were both explicitly Leninists. I mean, they called themselves Leninists, and that's how Singham grew up, and he agrees with that. He believes in that stuff. So, of course, he's aligned with the Chinese Communist Party. They're the most powerful communist party in the world, and he's a communist. So, but he's a communist who's made an awful lot of money. He had a tech startup that he sold. His part of the sale was almost $1 billion. And since he got that in his hand, he has spent it lavishly to help Chinese communist aligned groups in the United States. He also married the co-founder of Code Pink. So, you know, he's all about that. Code Pink is not known for its peacefulness either. So he's in Shanghai. He's probably out of reach for any kind of arrest if the grand jury comes back with the findings we kind of expect. But the truth is, it's really a good sign that we're going after Neville Roy Singham, because I'm sorry, you go back to 2020, you look at these riots, and in every one of those cities, time after time, you have entire stacks of bricks, you know, pallets of bricks just magically appear in the middle of the night, exactly where they want the rioting to happen. I'm sorry, those are expensive. Normal people didn't do that. There is a massive funding network behind the domestic terrorism we're seeing. And we now know, as I said earlier, that if you're talking about all the right-wing violence that Biden's team hyped up, we now know it was funded by the left too. So when you consider all these things, this is really evil, and it's got to be rolled up. And again, you know, we just convicted a bunch of Antifa guys for murdering, I believe, an ATF officer down there, some federal officer, and we've got this grand jury in the Southern District of New York. We also have, crucially, the grand conspiracy case before the grand jury in the Southern District of Florida, which is all about, did Obama and his team conspire to thwart and potentially overthrow an elected president of the United States? All these things are linked. All these things get thrown together, and we've got multiple cases going forward. So our friends who are like, well, I'll believe it when I see an arrest. Guys, a lot of people have already been arrested. A decent number of them are already in prison. James Comey's been indicted twice. That's about as big as you get. And we are really making progress. But the wheels of justice turn slowly, and this administration is turning them as quickly as it's able.
On one side as well, we have the president declassifying intelligence that China went after the voter files of 220 million Americans. On the other hand, a China-linked funder under a grand jury investigation for money moving into American political causes. So many stories happening. But are these really separate, Rod, or are they the same story, as you beautifully linked with the last answer? What's happening here might be really a criminal conspiracy against the person who was a citizen, became president of the United States.
Yeah, this is all connected. And what we know in this Chinese election interference, I won't call it a case because it's several cases. We know that we found at least 60,000 fake ballots printed on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party for the California elections. If we found 60,000, you know there are more. And nobody prints 60,000 of anything just for funnies. Oh, we have some extra money to spend. We'll make some fake ballots. No, this was for a purpose. Likewise, the voting machines out there, we now know that the data was being processed in China, which is illegal. And so the Chinese Communist Party had the ability to manipulate the results of elections in this country in real time. The newly declassified documents the president was talking about in primetime air on at least some networks are really damning. I mean, the Chinese went after 220 million voter files. Well, why the heck would you do that? You don't do it in isolation. And it's true that they can get some of that freely available. You just pay the fee to the clerk's office or the Secretary of State. But that's not what they did. They actually hacked election systems to get a lot of this data. If they can get that data, they can get the rest, and they can manipulate it. So yes, some of that is for influence operations. Some of that is to be able to flip votes. Have they actually done it? Well, of course, let's just all be Pollyanna and say that no election fraud ever happens. But I remember when Kamala Harris in 2019 was introducing legislation to ban voting machines because they were inherently hackable. She was calling for paper ballots until she got on Joe Biden's ticket. And all of a sudden that went completely away. So both parties have understood this vulnerability, but one of the parties is now exploiting the heck out of it.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. It really helps us reach more people who care about liberty and the Constitution. You can find this and other episodes at jennybethshow.com, as well as Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, X, and your favorite podcast platform.
The Jenny Beth Show is hosted by Jenny Beth Martin. The Jenny Beth Show is a production of Tea Party Patriots Action. For more information, visit teapartypatriots.org.